Hey guys, I'm Garrett. I'm the producer of the Trek Talks, and today we're going to be talking with George. George and I launched the Trek Talks for the Common Man at trektalks.org because we know what it's like to be living in a state of asking ourselves, is this really all that there is? Just devoting myself to making a paycheck? Is there a bigger story that we can live into? And these talks are bringing you into that life, into that bigger story and who you're meant to be. But today I thought it'd just be fun to get with George and just unpack the origin of how the name, the Trek Talks for the Common Man, came to be. So George, welcome in. Thanks for being here. So
great to be here.
So take us back to the beginning of Trek Talks for the Common Man and tell us about this name. How did the name come about?
It was an accident. So you'll see if you guys go to trektalks.org, and when you get to the second talk in the React talk, is one of the guys who's reacting is Michael Mercado. Michael and I formed the talks. He's the guy at the homeless shelter, the leader at the homeless shelter who would bring me in. And so we're meeting very quickly to come up with a name and what's the talk and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I had my Pandora playing and this song came on. I don't even know what the channel was that I had created. And it was the Fanfare for the Common Man by Aaron Copland. And it's a song I know, I recognize the melody, and I love cinematic, sweeping, big sound. And this was it. And I was like, oh, Michael, we got to listen to this. And so as the name came across, and I'm like, because we were already thinking Trek. This is a journey. It's a trek. It's something like that. And it was just like we looked at each other and just go, Trek for the Common Man. Because it's called Fanfare for the Common Man.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, one of the questions that is coming up from this first Trek Talk is just about the word common. You know, what's going on with Trek for the Common Man? Because, you know, obviously every little boy, right, loves the superheroes and wants to be the superhero and loves to, you know, you can't get them out of the superhero pajamas, and you know, they got Spider-Man sheets on their bed, and it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to be common. I don't want to go on a trek that makes me common. I want to be uncommon. I want to be more like the superhero. So what about that word, the Trek for the Common Man? How did that come into the name?
Yeah, so you guys are hearing the music. When Copland wrote it, he wrote it for the common man. He's an American. He didn't say average American. Just think of it, you know, the fanfare for the average American. That means average. And so, and back then in that day, man was, you know, all inclusive of men and women, you know. Yeah. So that's where the title came from. Well, yeah, you want to be a superhero, great. Or you want to be the CEO, you want to be president of the United States, you want to be all of these. You don't want to be common. But you are. Every single one of us. Let me give you an example. So one of the guys, another ally involved with the Trek Talks, he's moved to another town and is moved on. But I'll never forget this. He was going to a big meeting with the CEO, chairman of the board of this major oil company. Yeah. And he was all nervous about this. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but I was trying to calm him down. And I said, just imagine if you walk into the men's room, to the urinal, and he walks up to you and is next to you in the urinal next to you. You two are going to pee exactly the same way. Yeah. He doesn't have a golden toilet or a golden, you know, or anything like that. He's just as common as you are. And there's certain bodily functions that just make us equal.
Right.
And when you start there, you can start to discover who you are. And that gets you back to the basics, right? Because we're going to have to look, these Trek Talks about uncovering a bunch of stuff that you've layered on so that you don't really embrace the real you.
Right. I'll have to use that the next time I'm nervous about something.
It worked, by the way.
Yeah.
We had a great meeting. He goes, I couldn't stop thinking about us standing next to each other in the urinal. I mean, in the restroom.
Yeah.
It was great.
It really levels the playing field.
It sure does.
What's really cool to me, kind of just even as you're saying this, is just kind of the thought and the idea that, yeah, you know, whatever your titles are, whatever your position is, whatever your status is, the impact that a man has on his world, you know, is whether you're the CEO or you're the janitor, or, you know, you're at home with the wife and kids, or you're just in your world at work, whatever stage you're in, you know, a man has impact in how he moves through the world. And that's something that's common to every man. You know, the world really worships celebrities and superheroes, kind of puts them up on a pedestal, you know, and I think us as men really, like, we want to have impact for good, right? We want to be a man that can handle a situation, that can come through when he's needed, and can have impact for good in his world. And, you know, it's the common man, you know, it's the man who engages and who has a real strength to offer that really can make that impact, regardless of CEO or just coming in, you know, regardless of position, of title, of stature.
So if you look at Jesus, and who received his message were the common folk, the common men, the common man, the common woman. Okay. That's who received his message. And so the elites, the celebrities, he spoke with kings and princes but if you look at the elite in his religious world, which was the church at the time, they would have nothing of it. Right. They wouldn't look at this man. He associates with sinners. He talks to lepers and touches them. You know, he's unclean, you know, and there was all this judgmentalism, and they couldn't hear what he had to say.
Right.
So you need to be in a common man mindset for this. And one other thing occurs to me. So in today's world, we have men and women, and we use those words and things like that. We are saying common man because these talks are designed for men. And we're not trying to be all things to all people and blah, blah, blah. We know there's a cry out there. Men are desperate to find identity and tradition and what's real and what's manhood. And you know what? Our society has emasculated men. And so we're about restoring some of that in our own little way, in our trektalks.org, in however way we can do it to help men.
Yeah. I love that. I love that image of Jesus, because like you said, you know, who his message was for, but also just who he was, you know, coming not as a king, but this very common man.
Right. And I believe it's in Isaiah where Isaiah, in form of prophecy, describes him as an average guy. In fact, below average. He didn't have the blue eyes like you see in the Jesus movies. He didn't have the perfect hair. He didn't know. You wouldn't have associated with him. So you'll hear this in the Trek Talk. We've also posted some videos on this, but the original audience were homeless men in an addiction recovery program.
Yeah.
And some of them were day one in the program, which means they were all jacked up.
Yeah.
And there was still a lot of stuff in their body that hadn't come out yet. And they had 120 days in the program, but those were the guys. We couldn't have been talking to more common men.
Right.
And I thought that's a great title for these guys. But what I realized, and we did this for like 3.5 years, and what I realized was these talks are for every man.
Yeah.
And so, but you got to get past something to click on common man. Okay.
Right.
So I applaud you guys for watching and listening, because you've humbled yourself just a little bit to go, okay, I'll see what these commoners are talking about.
Yeah. What the commoners. I like that.
That's a British word.
Yeah. There you go. Well, it seems like whether it's homeless people who know that they need something, they need some help, they need to get past addiction, or it's the CEO that pees the same way as every other guy, right? What stirs the heart of a man stirs the heart of a man. You know, what the masculine soul needs is pretty common across the playing field. You know, I don't think we've ever said it that way before. I know I haven't. And I kind of wonder about just your experience in initially writing this content for and talking to men who are in a homeless program and an addiction recovery program, and now, and just the other men that we've put this out in front of. No, is there a difference?
Yes, there is a difference, and it's going to surprise you, the difference. And this is going to offend some of you all, but it's true. When you're talking to homeless men who realize they have an addiction problem and that's why they're homeless, they are an easy audience to talk to about changing their lives. And here's what you need. Yeah. Now let me go to another audience, and I think it's a tough audience, and it's men in church.
Yeah.
Because men in church, well, I go to church and I'm checking the box and I'm doing everything right and I look good and da 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 da. And inside, they may be just aching terribly, but they can't show it. They're a hard audience because they don't even know sometimes they have a problem. They don't know their hearts are empty. They don't know where they're headed. So it didn't happen right at first, but over time, I began loving these guys and been loving this audience. And honestly, I'd still be doing it today if there hadn't been a pandemic that just kind of blew the whole world up, right? Yeah. And so I would say, look, you kind of have to go, I'm an alcoholic, or I'm an addict, or I'm homeless. Put on some kind of persona and just kind of go there and go, what if that's who I am? And honestly, as I met these guys, I was shocked. There were guys who had been, I met a TV actor. Yeah. I'm like, he'd been eating out of dumpsters. I'm like, what's your story? How'd you get here? One guy was a real estate guy. And, you know, they were guys with normal jobs and workers, and, you know, they had families, they had kids. Yeah. And I'm like, how did you end up here? And they could tell you, and they would. Yeah. So that's the difference. The message, it's for every man, common man.
I love how we're talking along the lines of what stirs the heart of man stirs the heart of men. And the common man takes the journey, the trek, you know, as you describe it. The masculine heart of a man is a good, powerful, strong thing, and is so needed. But this world is so set against it. And guys, subscribe to the channel. We're releasing stuff all the time, so subscribe so you can keep up with everything that we're putting out there. And check out this video right here next. I know you're gonna love this, and we'll see you next time.